Angus," panted Matthew. "I'm so sorry I'm late. It was the boys, you see. Tobermory had been sick over Rogenwald, and Elspeth was just at her wit's end. You know that stuff you give children, that Calpol stuff? It's pink, and you give it to them when their temperature goes up. That stuff. Well, we couldn't find it, and so I had to run down to the chemist in Stockbridge and buy some, and it was only when I was standing in the queue in the chemist that I realised that Tobermory had been sick over me too." Angus, opening the door to his best man, laughed reassuringly. "We've got plenty of time. Plenty. Look, it's 3 hours at least before we have to be there." Matthew glanced at his watch. "I know, but still, it's going to take us 20 minutes to walk over to Palmerston Place, and you have to speak to the minister and so on." "The provost," said Angus. "It's a pisky cathedral." "Well, you have to speak to him," said Matthew. Angus ushered Matthew into the flat, placing an arm around his shoulder to calm him down. "There's nothing to worry about. We've got hours." They went into the drawing-room, a shabby, faded room furnished with ancient, chintzy chairs, a cocktail cabinet of obscure provenance, and a writing bureau stuffed with letters. Angus had inherited this bureau from an uncle in Broughty Ferry, and the correspondence had nothing to do with him, but related to the affairs of an earlier generation. Personal letters postmarked 1952, bills from long-departed traders for sums that seemed so tiny now, £3 for a new central heating radiator, for instance, £1 10 for a jacket from Forsyth's, an invitation to attend a Highland ball in Inverness, and so on. They should all have been thrown away, and Angus had occasionally steeled himself to do just that, but had cavilled at the idea every time. To throw all this away seemed to him to be throwing away the memory of a life. Nobody could be interested in these minutiae of his uncle's existence, but they were the physical remnants of a life, and somehow they bound Angus to one who had been fond of him and who had proved generous. Matthew, having regained his breath from running up the stairs, moved over to the window and looked out at the sky. "It's a great day for a wedding, Angus," he said. "Look at that sky. Not a cloud in sight. Not one. Blue, all the way up." Angus joined him at the window. "Good," he said. "Domenica will be so pleased." Matthew turned to him. "That's a very significant thing you said, you know." Angus looked puzzled. "What?" Matthew explained. "You said that Domenica would like this weather. That shows that you're looking at the world from her perspective, and that's a good omen for the marriage." Angus was embarrassed. "Oh, really?" "No," Matthew said. "I mean it. I haven't been married all that long." Long enough, thought Angus, to become a family of 5. "I haven't been married all that long," Matthew went on, "but one thing I've learned is this. You have to look at things from your spouse's point of view. You have to get used to seeing the world through 4 eyes rather than 2. Angus frowned. "A peculiar sort of vision, surely." "You may scoff, Angus, but it's true. What I really mean to say is that if your first thought is for her, and you've just shown that by thinking of how Domenica will feel about the weather, then that shows that you're already thinking in the way I said you should." Angus looked at his friend. Dear Matthew, so serious at times, so vulnerable, standing there in his MacGregor kilt with that curious buttonhole in his jacket. White Heather? The White Heather Club. His aunt, the wife of the uncle in Broughty Ferry, had gone on about that when, as a small boy, Angus had visited them for weekends. It was all tied up with Andy Stewart and country dancing and shortbread and all those Broughty Ferry things.